It's Thursday, January 12th, 2023. This morning, yesterday they came out with this new movie, that it's called Alice, which I don't know if that is a tie-in between the AL, for the ICE, between the American hemisphere, between Latin and North America. And then it has this so I was watching how they portray it. I'm like, they still haven't, I mean, in a kind of sort of, but not really. I've heard in this world that there's something they refer to as the four corners of the earth. I just recently discovered they have some symbol that they no longer display in this area that is a diamond and a square, which has 8 points, for which Alexander and I both have. Then there's 4 corners to a square. There are 3 angles to a triangle. And then there's 2 circles. All of that for which I brought into this world between myself and the special child. So that just is the conjecture pieces of whichever for order of importance. Where I am stuck is in the series of rooms with being withheld from the correct destiny piece, or the correct, and now I'm listening this morning to this man, Stephen Furtick, and he speaks of something called a Jezebel and something else, and one king. I, star maker, clockmaker, have one mentioned anatomical correctness. I have not been introduced to the other kings. I know that there is no possible way there can only be one king to manage the entire territory of the third rock from the sun. Mathematically, logistically, it doesn't make any sense. Not by marine time, or not by maritime, not by meridian time, and not judging from the third dimension. I completely understand that. I've just been held in a series of rooms under certain circumstances, which have precluded me from the correctness of real intellect. So now I'm searching to see what have they provided, and is there any signs of intelligent life out before I arrived that's been withheld from me, but now I'm able to connect with. So I'm watching Dragnet about how the supervisor, Hugh Brown, is speaking to Sergeant Friday and Sergeant Gannon, or Bill Gannon and Joe Friday. Because somewhere there's a Cotton-Eye Joe who does not laugh at this because he didn't get his part wrong, but the people that serve underneath him have. And there's some investigatory process. So I am watching this, and somewhere it is written that if I am delivered to a world that is under certain circumstances, there is to be a personal guard to sleep at the foot of the bed, if need be, until the situation is rectified. What I don't understand is when it's that serious between my mother who brought me here and then my arrival with this other special child on the way, and this order amongst mankind, between 4 corners of the earth, 3 angles, and two circles. And then there's the T cross, which I noticed this morning on one of the cartoons is referenced in a sailor cartoon, and it has a cat inside a glass jar, and the ship is outside, and the mast is exposed, and it represents the T of the cross. So I don't know if that's the cross of the sea, if that's the cross of Christianity. I'm not quite certain in this day and age, because the humans have explained it in so many ways. So then I go back and toggle between what Dragnet, the supervisor, Hugh Brown, is saying, frightened of how the Godfather League of, is it the mafia, the mob, or the gang? Because I'm pretty sure they disrupted the gangs and they leave them at a different caliber. So the mafia and the mob are whatever and whatever. Just to logistically get it straight in their words as they've presented it as humans during my time in this time capsule where I now wear scars on my body because so much incorrectness has gone on in some malperformance, in some deformation, and I'm stuck here. I'm also listening to how Stephen Furwick speaks of, I mean, he was so, it was almost like he wrote the conjecture for this particular moment. That's just by divine inspiration, whatever it is. It's just like the Holy Spirit was speaking through him. And he is so talented in his performance. I greatly appreciate his enthusiasm and his spirit that he brings. I mean, he is one of, like, I, at least when I watch him, he holds like one of the greats. Oh, it's Furtick, I apologize. And it's called Elevation. So I'm watching some of these pieces. And then there's that piece from Highway Patrol that has the two squares, one diamond, one square, which makes 8 points, which again represents astrologically August or Augustus and the house of August. And then they also mention something about Sloppy Joe and the Weasel, which it's something about Sneezing Weasel. They have a cartoon on Looney Tunes and Warner Brothers. Like, I didn't want to eat at Sloppy Joe's. Really, I didn't. Whatever that means in humans, I mean, Cotton Eye Joe might have to watch this one time first so he doesn't blush, but I don't enjoy sloppiness in this, of like what I arrived to. The fact that there were callers and protocol that was met while in Huntington with heart throbs from wherever that's allowed, but it's a different echelon when you are to bring a king star and you are a clockmaker woman. And when it is the time for heartthrob to choose his and her clockmaker star maker pairing, it's a completely different set of cosmological circumstances than a different class of whatever. What I'm unclear about is why this is acting out or performing in this malformation. So there's this symbol of the diamond and the square. They don't display actively the three-angled triangle, which then they put two triangles together and they seem to form a star. They don't display that actively in this area. But I'm going to go to the cartoon. It was Tune In With Me this morning. And it was Tony gives advice. It's S1 and it's Thursday 1/12. And Tony is spelled with 2 N's. I guess it's Toonie. No, Toonie has 2 O's, so it's Tony. And it's this one. But this is where the cat is in this glass bottle, and there's this ship. Yeah. And here's the cross. Now, is that the cross, the sea, and Christianity? Again, I'm not clear. I'm not crystal clear in what they're trying to pronounce and how to put it together so it's not misread or spun some other way to benefit somebody else's person that just keeps harming me in like new, intelligently designed ways and formats.
That a hobby sometimes helps. Are you gonna eat us or not? No. Wretched coward. Take this.
Now, what's strange is when I Google where are there other Cataruzzas in the world, the only place that comes up, or the place that came up with the most, was Finland. But yet here they are saying Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. And it says something rotten in Denmark. Now, by rotten, do they mean red, like caught red-handed? I'm just not quite sure. There's 4 corners of the earth, and then there's something called caught red-handed. I don't know what the humans mean by that. They're really never clear if and when symmetry is able to whatever. But there's whatever they got going on. Now, here's the chicks. And here's, this episode is the sneezing weasel. And there's chicks over here. And then it shows the 8 ball. Now it says Gone with the Wind, and then it says here's a chick with matches, and watch what happens when she stands up. Eat at Sloppy Joe's. I don't want to eat at Sloppy Joe's. I want the clean precision, got their life right and going to be a great father and dad, an example. And that is the complete opposite of what this area delivered. And I don't know who's involved. But here's what they're telling me. Warner Brothers, with the red and the blue, Blue Ribbon and Merry Melodies, regular U.S. patent OFF. Off? Really? It says Grand Shorts Award, a Warner Brothers cartoon in Technicolor. The sneezing weasel. Now that's interesting because Mount Sinai, that's what it translates out to. And then there's Mount Montefiore, which is Mount Flower. Again, like, how are they telling this story? So here's the sneezing weasel, and here is the approved whatever. Certificate number was 3954. No idea whose bingo card number that is. But I go back to all seriousness in The Shooting Board of S10E2, also aired today. Original date was 9/20/1967. And this is what it says. I consider this, I expected the dragnet to be the neat and tidy and to get every detail of my existence correct, being handed to a heartthrob who then I could have children with. That has not come to fruition. That never happened. So now I watch this dragnet with a okay, so that's idealistic, perfect world of what if there's an American dad who doesn't want to see any of the women molested, harmed, or hurt in any way, and he wants to be incredibly proud of the women and the men that he looks over, and we want to give him the best reputation ever on the entire planet. I'm coming from that level of team spirit. I'm watching this and I'm watching the way dad expects the men to behave in the field. And then I'm looking around in my isolation, knowing that something happened, and the heartthrob that I know it happened, but it never happened kind of a way until other things, whatever. Well, I'm still waiting in this third dimension. And I know that some people behaved where dad might not feel so proud of them. Dad might feel a little ashamed right now. And I'm like, I still am here. I'm still the four corners, the three angles, the diamond, and the two circles. So now I still have this need and this priority. And I'm really not sure where support is.
Wednesday, September 17th, 5:03 p.m. It didn't look too good.
Joe? Yeah. For what it's worth, I want you to know something.
What's that?
I'm not saying the board doesn't, but I want you to know I believe you.
So do I. Come on in a minute. It isn't a matter of belief, and I know you two know that. I also know I'm about to tell you a lot of other things you know. Sit down. Bring me every badge, right? You were issued this when you first came on the job. $20 worth of brass and pot metal in a $2 leather case. You were told to give it a regular polish or to tarnish. It's easy to keep the metal bright and clean, but what about the men who carry it?
I met one man with gray trousers once. That was already issued one of those. After the sloppiness and the first malformation happened in this area. Now, Furnick is going to go on. We're going to listen to the perfect world of what Dragnet expected of American dad's favorite daughter, being myself, since I don't know how many others there are. I am an apiary, a topiary. I'm one woman. I have no access to other women or to other men. Just one. For apiary and hive purposes, whatever that means. I see how dad put out Perfect World and how he expected his men to behave in the field as training videos. Great. I've met one who already knew with my face on his card that something had gone wrong. So now I'm stuck in these lands does American Dad know? I mean, like, I don't want to insult his intelligence, but what's being performed at this level is already an insult to his intelligence. And it's not getting any better. It's now at the performance level of, like, pitiful.
The department set up that board of inquiry. We did, ourselves. No political pressures, no citizens groups. Just us. And it's been in business for 15 years. I've faced it before, so have a lot of others. Sometimes the going's rough, it has to be. But it's the best way to get at the truth we know of. We live in a free and open society. That's why that board was set up. I don't have to tell you we don't sweep things under the rug here. No whitewashing of anybody or anything. That's why this hunk of metal means something and why it always will. It's not something we hide behind. It's something we live up to. Believe me, I know what you're going through, Joe. Board rules against you, it means a possible jury trial for manslaughter. Dismissal from the force. But I know this, too. You want this thing cleaned up with facts, not opinions. And that's the way it's going to be. You men are professionals at your job. And when you get involved, you're judged first by professionals, just like yourselves. Men who aren't out to whitewash you. Men who aren't out to bury you. I wouldn't want it any other way, and neither would you. Because the alternative sickens me. None of us ever want to see this turn into a hunting license.
A hunting license. Now look. The building, very phallic in its resurrection, looks like something I heard in California, but there's another version of this somewhere else, which I'm not going to say the name, Moscow, Indiana. I'm just saying it's not there necessarily, but ID-wise, I mean, ID is the whatever, and whatever.
Brown. Yeah, right here. Good. On the way now. That was Bowser. Hop out of that laundrette. They turned something.
So now, like, if that was Dad's speech of what he expected of his men in the performance in my mother's day and age and my day and age, I'm going to go to one of these Christian-ish performances by a modern speaker and how he uses his vessel and his temple in order to speak verse with some enthusiasm in like a team lead of some sort.
Had done, and that's why she threatened him. Ahab goes home and tells Jezebel, this dude, don't mess with this dude. You better do something about him. He's going to yank your whole idol worshiping kingdom out of your hands. He's going to sit.
That's how I feel about my American Dad. Like, somewhere in the system, there has to be some representative, since I was born in North America, there has to be a North American Dad somewhere. Don't know where. I didn't want to shame him. He didn't want to shame me. But then there's like a whole lot of humans. And as an apiary at the hive, there's got to be some process that he knows about because he's the American Dad and he has an American daughter.
Send you back packing to Phoenicia. This dude is crazy. He had them cutting up bulls. This dude told them to take water in a drought, 4 jars of water, and pour the water on the wood 3 times, and then called for fire. This is not exactly a strategic mastermind, but he is a spiritual giant. He was wetting wood and praying for fire. That's what Ahab said. That's what Ahab said.
So now, is this gospel or is this gossip? Just curious. Dad's daughter's asking.
His enemy was doing a better job telling his story than he was. I mean, Ahab wouldn't shut up. He said he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done. He didn't leave out any details.
Now, by Elijah, like, again, I arrived just so, like, my House of August representative, who I think plays for Florida, but lives, I just found out, somewhere between me and Canada. Um, so, the guy here, the quarterback here in like time was Eli, Eli for this Giants, I just found out. I think he wore the number 10. So if he's some form of gatekeeper, NFL in the know kind of a guy, they're talking about Elijah as almost like a manager, just so gossip and gospel gets there. I mean, when he has to go meet with my American dad for all the things that went wrong that he was a witness of for the Giants of New York, which I think are based out of New Jersey, which gets really confusing for like dad's American daughter.
And then he got the Bulls, and then he started taunting them. And then he was like, hey, maybe you should call louder. Maybe Bale's in the bathroom. He told everything Elijah had done. He told how Elijah had told him in chapter 18, where he said there's a cloud the size of a man's hand. And his servant said, I don't see anything. And
that's because there's a difference between human knowledge and alien knowledge. Difference between human technology and alien technology. There's a difference between airspace, AIR, air being HEIR, and then arrow, AERO. Just so Cupid gets his job right with ARROWS and his quiver.
And Elijah said, well, the problem isn't with God's word, it's with your eyes. Go look again. He sent that poor servant. Remember when I had you running up and down the stairs one time preaching this passage? Yeah. I sent him back and forth 7 times, the most cardio he had ever done in his life. And then I sent him back and forth and talked about the frustration of faith. He told Jezebel all that. Ahab did. The enemy did. The enemy did. Because the enemy is a better storyteller than most of God's children. He'll tell you stories. Here's how good he is. Here's how good he is. He will just make up stuff that might happen. That might happen. And then he will emphasize the hypothetical as you forget the historical. So all Elijah really had to do was give the devil a history lesson. All Elijah really had to do to stop himself from going in the wrong direction, from sinking into the depths of despair, to be saying, I'm suicidal, I don't want to live, I don't want to do this, they're trying to kill me. All he had to do while he was walking was stop for one moment and tell the story like it really happened. Because I thought I was the only one. But my God is Yahweh. I stood on that mountain all alone. I called down fire. I wet that wood, and God came through. I went to the brook called Cherith, and the birds brought me food. I went to the widow's house, and I multiplied her oil.
Oh, so this one knows Yahweh. Fabulous. In the big I am.
Why do you keep deleting all the stuff that God did and adding stuff that the enemy might do and running from your purpose? That's Jezebel. See, because you can have Jesus in your heart and Jezebel in your head.
And talk about aligning the stars so you know who the manager and the layperson is. Elijah is spelled E-L-I, Eli, and then J-A, and then an H. Oh, well, the problem I encountered while here, just so my American dad knows what touched his American daughter that should have never have been, because I needed a heartthrob, not whatever Sloppy Joe had cooked up on somebody else's cooking the books for I don't know what welfare purpose. But That J-A with the E-L-I at the New York Giants. Hello. I have a star brother somewhere. It's got some questions.
Oh, yeah, I'm saved and going to heaven. I got Jesus in my heart. I believe you. I really do. All you got to do is ask him and he'll come in. That's not the hard part. The hard part isn't getting Jesus in your heart. That's by grace anyway. And then, like, you did so much good stuff, he's like, okay, cool. This is a 5-star hotel. I'll come live in your heart. No. Your heart is nasty.
What is that 5-point star? I think that's the sheriff. Is that for the TIFs and the riffs department? And then there's the 6-pointed star, 5-pointed star, 6-pointed star, and 7. He says there's a 7-pointed star. I've never heard of a 7-pointed star, but I do know that there's some cleanup in aisle 7 at the supermarket right now.
Your heart is filthy. Your heart looks like a college dorm room. Looks like a frat house. Been torn apart. Your house looks terrible. And he came in anyway. That's not the hard part. Hey, if you believe and repent and turn to him, he'll come in your heart. But if Jesus is in your heart and Jezebel's in your head, you won't follow him. You'll follow fear. And fear, watch this, makes you forget.
I'm not Jezebel. I'm the American dad's daughter. And what happens in my life matters and counts. Far beyond the natural perception of man. That much I know. And they've sent more than enough messages. And there are people in some category of humans that are out of my reach, out of touch, out of reach. And it feels like I'm off guard. Caught off guard. I don't know why.
Every step he takes away, he's telling himself this same story. And with every step he takes away from what God has brought him into. Do you know what I mean when I say that, or do I need to break it down? It's when God has called you to be really present, really invested, really faithful, really take the next step. Don't be afraid to look like a fool. Just do what he gave you to do. God has called you. He's given you a gift. And every step he takes away from that, and he rehearses the wrong story, it becomes so solidified that by the time he gets to the cave, he's got this story down. Not even the earthquake, the windstorm, or the fire can reverse what he's rehearsed. Not even the greatest act of God. So God, come here, home. So God's like, I know what to do. Come here, come on up stage, come on up stage. God's like, I know what to do. Since I got your back, since I know you, since I made you, since I called you, I'm gonna whisper it. Because I'm right here. What are you doing here, Elijah? Elijah's like, I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. Now here's why I think Elijah's speech sucks. This is why I think his story is trash. Put it back up, verse 10 or 14, doesn't matter. They're both the same stupid story. The same stuff over and over again. You know how you get when you get stuck in a story? We used to say in my house, that's my story, and all right, let me tell you something new. Your mama didn't tell you this one. That's your story, and you're stuck in it. Even when God blasts the cave apart, now there's no real cave for you to stand in. But you're still trapped in that conversation in your head. What Jezebel said.
I'm not stuck in my head. I'm stuck in my mother's bedroom. in a world I did not want to be birthed to have to go down this direction and have the heartthrob withheld from my possession and from like actual capitulate and coupling.
So anyway, he's like, I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant.
Now, what's interesting is he's doing this and it says one king and 1910. I've only heard of one person with a face who hasn't been coronated yet, but there's something going on across the pond, and he wants to be referred to as a KING, which is what that says, as one. But they're at that level. I mean, one can't handle the entire earth at soft power. Today on the news, they also put up this soft power as opposed to like with the Fed and with the whatever. Like that's when soft power comes in handy because you don't want to take like a hard fall. You want soft power when you're about to hit the ground and like your parachute is shredded.
Torn down your altars and put your prophets to death with the sword. That is why the story stopped, because of what he started with. I.
Now, if you have to make an announcement, if you have this very important astrological appearance and calculation, you have to make an announcement. It has to start with I, doesn't it? I didn't think one would have to make this level of announcement. I thought that the professionals would have had some soft landing at soft power, knowing and recognizing one of their own. Not clear where problems arise at. They're your children. They're your upper chamber. They're your support. And it's tied into like all sorts of things that are really important over other important life frames. So
Wherever this story goes next, it is going to be confined by the point of view of the narrator. You can't narrate by faith in first person.
that's where he says it's the third person, for which again this number 3 and this Trinity comes in, for which I have a male and female number 3 during a gestational whatever that was delivered to the same place or same area that I was. So I saw the nurses on their strike today hold up a sign that says fight poverty, not the poor. But the first 3 letters of poverty are POV. And I know where I am in New York, having been forced on some lead this way. It's just interesting that this would be the message that they put up today from their I don't know if this is considered a Christian representative. It sounds Christian to me, but I'm not really sure.
In fiction, they have what's called a third person narrator. It's when the character is just saying, I did this, and I did that, and I went here, and I went there. So basically, like the way we live our lives, what do they think of me? What are they saying about me? Why didn't they invite me? Why don't they like me? What's wrong with me? I. Third person narrator is different. It describes the event. Watch this, because remember, Holly has a book club. And then they have third person omniscient. This is a narrator that knows stuff that they have no business knowing. And they say stuff that the characters in the story can't see. So God said, you have been stuck in first person frustration. But when the third person, missed it, the Father, the Son, and the third person of the Trinity.
Yeah, and let's break that down for a minute. If you actually go spell it right for Gospels and gossip, it says fat her. Father. Her means you're an 8 and you birth a son. An SON, for which I qualify. So the fat her and the Father in this Trinity is myself and my SON and this special Holy Spirit birth. So there's me telling the story from the first person being misled. Then there's the arrival of my son. And now there's this third person storytelling of what actually happened in history lesson.
The Holy Spirit, when the Spirit speaks, when the Spirit tells your story, when the Spirit interprets your situation, when the Spirit quickens you, when the Spirit of God shows you what's up, when the Spirit of God tells you, I still got something for you to do, when the Spirit of God speaks, when you speak to God through Spirit, and He speaks to you through Spirit, something happens, and the angels come. So Holly,
So something happens and the angels come. I sure hope so. Now what's interesting is I would have called this a zoot suit, but I don't want to disrespect Governor Phil Murphy for his appearance today because I see he's wearing pinstripes while delivering a very special message.
Here's Governor Phil Murphy is standing his ground on his opposition to congestion pricing. One day after New York Governor Kathy Hochul doubled down on her plan in her State of the State speech, I spoke with Governor Murphy yesterday on our streaming channel CBS News New York. Murphy said he could not allow New Jersey commuters to be double taxed, and that's not all.
There aren't the new rail tunnels under the Hudson. The Port Authority bus terminal is not been renovated or rebuilt. All of that's finally progressing during our time, but it's not where it needs to be. We need to give commuters real alternatives, and right now they don't have them.
And you can watch her.
I don't even have the ability to commute. I have nowhere to go. I have no support. The fat her happened. The birth of the son happened. And now the history lesson is happening. I didn't ever anticipate it to happen this way. I would have never approved if had given the correct option for it to ever be performed this way. But here we are. And I still don't have the correct support system that I need. I don't know where my American dad is, but his American daughter needs him. It's star 1978, star 8378. Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. And this is the, like if I say Marvel Comics has the bat symbol, like how does Batman know that Catwoman needs him? Flashes that sign in the clouds. How does American Dad know that his American daughter still needs his expertise and still needs his help. It's right there. That's the symbol that they gave me to use while my feet are in these lands while I am here.